Hey guys, Dr. Justin Marcagiani here. Today's video, we're going to be chatting about muscle and joint inflammation. We're going to be going into the root cause, some of the more subtle, but and also not so subtle root causes. And we're going to dive into that. Really excited to do that today. Before we do, please smash that like button. Really helps the search algorithm. Click the subscribe and the bell as well, so you get notifications of some of my live videos, so you guys can come on board and interact and ask me questions in real time. Also, put your comments below. Love to know your thoughts on the videos. I'm always looking at the comments below for topics and ideas on new video ideas. All right, guys, let's dive in. So, why are my muscles and joints chronically sore? So, I mean, we have kind of the in your face type of reasons, right? We are exercising too much and or we're maybe too little and we're overweight, right? So one of the first things is we're exercising too hard, right? We're too in a catabolic state. We're breaking down too much, whether it exercises too hard, CrossFit, we're not having enough sleep and recovery or enough protein on the backside. Hard exercise is one. Number two is you just have too much inflammation, too much weight on your joints. If you're 75, 80, 100 pounds overweight and you're sedentary, yeah, you're going to have some problems. You're going to have some problems with your joints. That's going to be problematic. Chronic exercise where it involves lots of running and pounding on your joints. Ideally, unless you're training for a specific movement, you should not be pounding your joints because you could be on an elliptical, a rower, some type of device that allows you to still get that cardio, allow your heart to pump, allow your muscles to work, but not to get that pounding. The pounding is just not worth it. You're just going to be inviting a total knee replacement or hip replacement down the road. So if you want the cardio, pick a good device that's going to still give you that. I mean, that good heart pump, that good ability to use your aerobic kind of zone 1, zone 2, zone 3 type of cardiovascular exercise. I choose a rower personally. I have a Concept D rower. You can do an elliptical. You can do a bike. I personally like to do something that involves upper and lower. So my go-to would be a rower because I'm getting the extension with my arms, and I'm also getting the pull with my hamstrings. Second will be an elliptical. I like doing those two because you're getting full body and you're not getting that pounding joint. And if you want to pound your joints, much better off do your sprints, do your runs, either up a hill or on grass, so it's a little bit more friendly on the absorption side. No reason to bang your joints up unless you have to train very specifically because you're playing basketball or you're playing or you run marathons and you really have to train that. I mean, I would just say do your best. I would say think twice about a lot of marathon running because if it's going to be chronic on hard surface, it's going to really hurt your joints over time and you're going to need some kind of surgery down the road. So we talked about physical things, right? We talked about over-exercise. We talked about exercising too hard, pounding compressive forces. Third, not eating enough protein. Remember, your bones are half protein. Obviously, you have some calcium, magnesium, strontium, all that, right? Good, healthy green vegetables, but you need half protein. So you have to get enough protein. So biggest thing I see over time is people aren't getting enough protein in. So at least a half a gram per pound of body weight. So if I'm 200, I think I'm about 210, 215. So I should be getting a minimum about 110 grams of protein. Now, if you exercise, that's going to go up to 0.75 per pound of body weight. So that goes up to 160, 170. And then if you're doing more lifting, more bodybuilding stuff, a couple times a week, 3 or 4 times a week, you may need to get up to 1 gram per pound. So just kind of keep it in that reference, a half a gram to 1 gram per pound of body weight. So if you're 200-pound man, let's say 150-pound woman, that'd be 75 to 150 grams of protein. Now, about 4 ounces of protein will get you about 30 grams of protein. So if you're a woman that weighs about 150, right, 150, 140, probably about a palm size, about 4 ounces, 3 times a day, it's probably going to be enough. And then you can also add in some protein powder, a good collagen protein shake, right, either before or after workout. The benefit of protein powder is you get all those nutrients absorbed right into your system, into your bloodstream fast to help with good anabolic metabolism. All right, we hit protein. We can talk about some of the minerals too. Of course, calcium, magnesium, vitamin K2, vitamin D, very important for calcium uptake. We need good minerals. Green leafy green vegetables are going to be really important. Good healthy fat soluble vitamins, good healthy vitamin K. It's going to really help. So that nutritional component is very important. Of course, if you have very inflammatory foods like gluten and processed flours and grains and excess omega-6 vegetable oils, that's going to inflame the gut. And that may make it harder for you to absorb a lot of the nutrients. So just because you eat it, it doesn't mean you may absorb it. So you got to make sure those nutrients are there. And if you read Dr. Jonathan Wright's book, I think it's Why You Need Hydrochloric Acid. There's a nice chart in there that talks about the correlation of age and stomach acid. So as you get older, stomach acid goes down. So what does that mean? Harder for you to break down protein, harder for you to ionize minerals. So a lot of the minerals talked about, right? Calcium, magnesium, strontium, vanadium, Vitamin K2, fat soluble vitamin. Of course, all your amino acids, they all involve good, high quality hydrochloric acid to activate those enzymes and ionize those minerals. So, very important that we are on top of good acids. And also, as you get older, you'll notice that older people tend to eat less as they get older. Their metabolism drops. That's why you see that people that live in colder environments, they want to move down to warmer environments. So they usually have lower thyroid function as they age. There's a big correlation with lower thyroid and joint inflammation and joint pain and bone loss. So we start to have lower thyroid. We start to have lower stomach acid. Now we start to crave less quality protein and less nutrition. Therefore, we don't have the building blocks to build it up. So you can see this correlation, okay? And then let's say you factor in there an H. pylori infection or a small intestinal bacterial overgrowth or some kind of gut infection, that can definitely exacerbate that bottleneck and that absorption of all those key nutrients and amino acids. So I already kind of elucidated low thyroid could be a big deal. If we have low thyroid, I see that big connection with low thyroid and fibromyalgia. I see a big connection with low thyroid and joint pain as well. Got to get to the root cause there. Gluten sensitivity in and of itself can cause joint pain. You can have inflammation, and these inflammatory compounds get stuck in that joint area, and that can create inflammation. And then you have other types of foods in the area of nightshades. They're known as alpha solanines. These can also cause joint inflammation. You see them as tomatoes, potatoes, eggplants, peppers, and you also see them as oxalates too. Oxalates like spinach are a big one. These are known to also cause kidney pain, but these oxalate crystals can also go into the muscle and create lots of muscle pain. More muscle pain. You can also see it in the vaginal area causing vulvodynia pain. So you got to look at the oxalates. That can be definitely a big deal. So we talked about, it's women, right? Lower progesterone, lower estrogen as you go into menopause. Progesterone helps activate the osteoblast. That's going to be helping to build up the bone, and osteoclast break it down. Estrogen breaks it down more, progesterone builds it up. Now, it's important because you want to have a good, healthy breakdown, break up, because the breakdown helps clear off the debris. It's like going into your backyard and kind of pulling out the weeds, and then you go kind of plant the seeds down, right? So there's this kind of clearing effect and building effect. And of course, good lifting, good resistance training is going to be helpful because that's going to cause that piezoelectric effect that causes that stimulation for that calcium to go in and adhere to that bone. So we need good stimulation, good lifting. You can start off with bands. You can then do cables are really good. I recommend starting out, just do some good functional push pull, bend movement, lunge movements. Try to find a weight. You can do body weight out of the gates. Try to find a weight you can do 10 to 15 reps with good form. And if you're in doubt, get a good trainer out of the gate to make sure that you're doing really good form. So we talked about female hormones. Now, you could all say the same thing about testosterone in men too. So low DHEA, low testosterone, that could be a problem. Cortisol, lots of chronic stress. You're going to see high levels of cortisol. Cortisol is very catabolic. So high levels can also cause anxiety and mood issues, that kind of jitteriness, but it can also be very catabolic and cause a breakdown of either muscle tissue and or joint or bone tissue. I would say last but not least, just having bad exercise form. Like you're coming in and you're bouncing your movements around, whether it's a chest or you're like doing a lunge and you're just kind of banging your movements around. So I recommend come in with a movement, own the movement all the way, pause at the end, and then come back up. You could explode in that shortening phase, right? So when you're shortening the muscle, that's like bicep curl, right? You're shortening, right? Origin insertion, get closer, shortening, and then slower on the eccentric. Most movements tend to cause injury on the eccentric when you're elongating. That's like going into a squat and bouncing at the bottom, or bouncing on the deadlift, or on a bench press, coming down and bouncing, right? So usually if you go really slow on that eccentric, good 4 seconds, pause, and then explode on the concentric when you shorten, that's usually a better way to protect your muscles. And if you're on the fence, you can just go slow all the way around. That's great too. All right, let's recap. So inflammatory foods, 1, gluten, right? Alpha solanines, oxalates, not having enough protein, not having enough minerals, vitamin K2, magnesium, strontium, not having enough hydrochloric acid, lower thyroid function, infections causing malabsorption. I'd also say hormones, estrogen, progesterone, cortisol imbalances, low testosterone, low DHEA. And then, of course, just being chronically stressed, doing exercise that involves lots of pounding, lots of compression, and or over-exercising, but also not doing enough where you don't create that piezoelectric effect to cause that calcium to reabsorb. It'll be my top 8, I think, causes of joint pain. And again, if you have an issue with your joints, you have to correct all those issues and find a good practitioner that's going to work on activating the muscles, whether it's active release, myofascial release, using the Nuvii or bioelectric device to kind of help that muscle be stimulated to turn back on. Good chiropractic care to make sure the joint is moving and there's no subluxations and there's good alignment and the joints are moving. Remember, the brain gets communication from the joint through movement. So if you have these joints are inflamed or stuck or there's adhesion with that fascia to that muscle and that joint's not working, you're not going to get good communication from the joint to the brain. So make sure there's good movement. That's very important. And whether it's a good massage or good chiropractic adjustment, that will be very helpful out of the gates. All right, guys, Dr. J here. If you enjoyed today's video, let me know. Put your comments down below. Let me know what's worked for you. And if you enjoyed it, share with family and friends. And if you want deeper functional medicine support, because you have some chronic inflammatory issues and you want to look deeper, feel free. There'll be a link down below where you can reach out and schedule with myself and my staff, and we're happy to help you worldwide. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. Let me dive into a question or two. Yeah, this is you daily. Got it. Pandemic weight gain. That makes sense. You got to find a couple of these things that resonate in this video and work on it. What do you think of eliminating a lot of concentrated phytonutrients? What do you think about limiting a lot of concentrated phytonutrients post-workout? Not exactly a great idea to consume lots of phytonutrients, right? Because it would blunt the stress adaptation response. Yeah, I mean, the idea is exercise is going to be a little bit, it's like a hormetic stress, right? It's a good stress so your body can adapt. My whole thing is anything afterwards that kind of helps put your body into a anti-inflammatory state is a good thing. So, I mean, can we take it like as far as, hey, we should eat a bunch of gluten and a bunch of processed food because that may put us more in an inflammatory state, and good healthy grass-fed meat may make us anti-inflammatory. I wouldn't go that far personally, but I think definitely during the workout, you wouldn't want to be blunting it with all these extra nutrients. And I'd probably just focus on coming in like post-workout for that first hour, more with good amino acids and good nutrients to help upregulate insulin, open the cells, and focus more on the amino acids. But I wouldn't really come in there with a ton of pro-antioxidant or anti-inflammatory support, probably for an hour later or so. But I think that's a good working philosophy. And you can try it and test it out. See how you feel. See how your recovery is. Get like a Fitbit or an Oura Ring and test your HRV out and see how you feel. What do you think of consuming salt and food-grade clays at the same time to absorb toxins? Yeah, I mean, empty stomach can be fine. I mean, I'll typically use a combination of different fulvic mineral salts, which can be very helpful. These different hydrocarbons that can bind to a lot of mold toxins. Use activated charcoal, use bentonite clay, modified citrus pectins, fulvic minerals, zeolite. These are really good at binding up different heavy metals and toxins, so I like that. Typically taken away from food because they can bind up a lot of your nutrients too. And again, if you're eating bad food, you could take it with that. Or if you're eating a lot of alcohol, you could definitely try it with that too. How common is copper deficiency with arthritis and other systemic infections? Well, I mean, it depends. So if you look at a lot of the foods that are very high in copper, meats are going to be pretty high in copper. They're also very high in zinc too. So it tends to balance out the copper and zinc ratio. So there's not a lot of, I mean, you can go, let me pull this up here. Let me show you guys how I operate. People are very worried about like copper, excess, for instance. But if you look at a lot of the foods that are very high in copper, you're actually going to see there's also pretty high in zinc too. It's a common thing I see. Okay, let me pull this up here for y'all. Okay. All right, cool. So if I go to, I think it's myfooddata.com is a good one. All right, and then if we go and look at food lists, let's go look at copper. Now let's go look at zinc. So most of them tend to correlate. And again, you got to look at these websites. Don't look at the bioavailability because a lot of plant-based nutrients, they may not be able to be extracted due to the anti-nutrients or the phytates or the oxalates in them. So it can be a little deceiving. But if you look out of the gate, right, oysters, this is on copper, number 1. Mushrooms, number 2. Right? We got oysters, number 1. Then we're on copper. We're on zinc now. So this is copper. This is zinc. So you can already see seafood across the gates, number 1 for each. So you're going to see beef here. Tofu, again, a lot of trypsin inhibitors, so that's deceiving. You'll see sweet potato, some sesame seeds. Again, there's going to be some anti-nutrients there. If you soak it, maybe better. Cashews, chickpeas. Then you have more seafood, salmon, dark chocolate. Come down here, chicken, pork chop, squash, pumpkin seeds, Again, lentils, shiitake mushrooms, that was number one here. So you can see a lot of the animal products and some of the good quality seeds are going to be on the top of the list, and then especially the seafoods. So out of the gates, you really want to keep that in mind. Usually a strong correlation between them too. So as long as you're getting zinc and copper together, I'm not too worried. And if you have a copper deficiency, guess what? You probably also have a protein deficiency. You're probably not eating beef, seafood, chicken, beef, pork, right? I mean, some of the top 3, 4 proteins were on the list for copper and zinc. So if you have a copper deficiency, you probably have a protein deficiency. If it's a protein deficiency, you probably don't have enough amino acids to rebuild your muscle. So keep all that in mind as you're kind of getting to the root cause of why these joint and muscle pains are there. Again, Dr. J here. Hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, let me know. Appreciate it. You guys have an awesome day. Take care, y'all. Bye now.